Welcome back. I hope you are having a super fantastic day and your day is on fire. Now, if you haven't heard part one of this Wayne Cotton interview, you're going to want to go back and listen to part one because, my goodness, did Wayne share some nuggets and pearls of wisdom. Do not miss part one. But let me tell you what, part two here, going hell and back. Buckle up, listen in, and I can't wait to hear your feedback after today's episode. Let's go to Wayne Cotton now.
You've been through hell and back in many different ways. You've had a very severe motorcycle accident. You suffered a stroke. You've been through some of the things you just shared. And you talk about how problems create beneficial rearrangements. How does any of that, along with losing your daughter when she's 4 years old, how do you get your mind right when you're dealing with blow after blow at levels that'll knock you off your feet, take your wind away, and sometimes make you want to give up?
Tell you another story.
I love you, man. Oh, man.
Well, I'm 73 in a few weeks, so, storyteller, right? My dad was a storyteller, too. So my dad was born the 9th day of the 9th month of 1909.
What?
He used to say, 09, 09, 09. In fact, when he moved, between 75 and 85, he lived out here in the Okanagan Valley of BC. And then he moved back to Edmonton. My three sisters are there. And I was there lots too, because I was commuting 550 miles to go to work in a week. And anyway, Dad lived 99 years, 9 months, and I kid you not, 9 days.
What?
Like, what are the chances of that ever happening? That's like a 1 in a zillion, right? I was laying on the bed. We used to celebrate his birthday every year, the long weekend in September, because it was close to his birthday. I was laying on the bed with him the day before he died, and his head was here in my arms. We were talking, and I said, we're going to have a big celebration on your 100th birthday, whether you're here or not. And he says, yeah, I know you are. And we did. Standing room only for a guy who hadn't lived in that town from 1965. Absolutely packed. And anyway, Dad had some really neat sayings, and he was a force for me. Very quiet guy.
So that's where you get it.
He said some things that were really powerful.
Let me ask you, because I remember our conversations on the phone. You would go to your dad's bed every night and tuck him in. For how many years did you do that at 9, 10 o'clock at night? You would never go home first. You'd go to the nursing home or where he was, and you would tuck him in and say a prayer. Well, how long did you do that for?
Here's what happened. At one point, this started with my 90-day wonder, my strategy thing. And you always put the 4 categories of blue sky, green machine, red tape, and mellow yellow. So you have projects underneath there. So at one time I put down a project, Daily Dad Gab. It was just a whim. I wanted to talk to my dad every single day for 90 days. And he was living across the city, so it would take me about a half an hour to drive over there. And I'd walk in his room at 9 o'clock. And I might have been home or whatever, but I'd head over there, walk in his door at 9 o'clock. He'd say, oh, you're here again. Say, yep. And so we'd talk about the weather, and we'd talk about who came to visit him that day. He always had a little book there. People would write down, their stuff. His memory was fading somewhat. And he'd show me some old pictures, and we'd tell some stories with each other. I'd tuck him into bed, feed him his pills, and head back home. I did that every day for 90 days. If I was out of town, I'd phone him at 9 o'clock at night.
Right. I remember.
Sometimes I'd be in 3 time zones away, and we'd out for dinner with somebody, and all of a sudden, it was instinctual for my dad. And then I wrote it down again in my next 90-day wonder, Daily Dad Gab, and I did it again. That means I did it for half a year. By that time, it wasn't a habit, it was a ritual.
Right.
I did it for the rest of his life. Minus about a month when he wouldn't answer his phone anymore. But my sisters were there. This is after we moved out here. When we moved out to the Okanagan Valley, it's 550 miles away from Edmonton, 550 miles away from him, and I was brokenhearted. I was absolutely brokenhearted, Todd. It was so difficult. I felt like I was abandoning my dad. And we were there with the last load and our dog and Bren and me, and we're heading out. And Dad says, you're going to phone me every night, aren't you? 9 o'clock? And I said, yep. He said, quit your blubbering and get out of here. He gave me permission to leave.
And how long did you do that for?
In total, just 3 months under 15 years.
Jeez.
He's age 85. And he lived to 3 months short of 100.
You talk about love.
Well, it was neat for him, Todd, but it was neat for me too.
Yeah,
it was a precious thing for me. It was amazing. And one time I was on an airplane and I was talking to this lady and she said she was an author. And I said, what'd you write? She said, I wrote a book called Once Upon a Lifetime. And I said, what's that about? She said, well, it's 1,001 questions to ask somebody about their life. I said, really? That sounds really neat. She says, here, I'll give you a copy. So after I got that, every time I go to Dad, I'd pull that book out of one of his dresser drawers and I'd ask him some more questions. I learned so much about my dad. Right. It was amazing. Right. And I probably never got by 350 questions because I would write over top of the next 5 questions. The story was so good, right? So when I did his eulogy at his service, by the way, we did wait until his 100th birthday. And when I did the eulogy, the minister was a new guy and he says, eulogy can only be 10 minutes long, Wayne. And I said, are you kidding me? This guy lived to almost 100 years old, and I'm going to discuss that in 10 minutes. He says, well, 15, but a eulogy has to be short. I said, you don't understand. I'm a professional speaker. He says, Wayne, I'm serious. I said, so am I. I went 30, 35 minutes, maybe 40, I don't know. But, people were laughing, and the stories came out. And quick example. I see, Mr. Motherwell's here with us today, and he lives out in Victoria, BC, and his dad and my grandfather homesteaded near each other up by the creek, Battle Creek. The First World War came along, and your dad said, I'm going to go away and serve my country. So he talks to my grandfather, and he says, John, would you please look after my farm while I'm gone? I don't want any money, but I want to make sure it's in good shape when I get back. And so my grandfather looked after Motherwell's farm. When Motherwell came back from the First World War, my grandfather handed him a check big enough to pay off his farm.
Wow.
And Motherwell handed my father and my grandfather a hand grenade from the First World War. and the pin and the powder were out of it, right? Oh. So I'm saying to Mr. Motherwell in the audience, I said, so I played with this thing for decades. Didn't even know what it was for a long time. But it's been a toy to me. And still, when I moved from Edmonton, I brought it out to the Okanagan Valley, but I brought it back because I think it's time for you to play with it for a while. And he was in his mid-80s, right? Well, he's got this big grin on his face, and I said, but I don't think it'd be appropriate for you to give me this hand grenade in church, so I'll do it outside. That was a story from my dad.
I love it. Right? I love it.
So I've sold a lot of that lady's books.
Speaking of streaks, you went to see your dad or talk to your dad for 15 years straight. Before we end today's episode, I have to brag on you for a second. I'm going back to the start. 1998, you decide that you're going to go on this exercise streak and exercise every day without fail.
Todd,
come on,
let me correct the story.
Tell the truth. Tell us what happened.
You told me I was going to do that.
and how long did it go for? And tell us what happened.
Well, I'll tell you the beginning. You were a massage therapist, but you also were a personal trainer. And so you convinced us that we should use your services, or maybe we convinced you. I don't know. I don't remember. We probably convinced you.
Probably.
So you get Bren and I in the gym. And I was about 50. Mm-hmm. You put us through this darndest workout, and I hurt so bad. So did Bren. We catch a flight back to Edmonton from San Diego, and we had a place in San Diego. That's how we met, right down there. So anyway, we're going on a flight back to Edmonton, and we hurt so bad. And I remember being in the security section of the airport. And I leaned backwards and I got my sleeves down. I said, Brenda, can you pull my jacket off for me, please? And so she's got her hands down there. And I'm doing the same thing for her. And we're laughing and crying at the same time. We get on the airplane. I couldn't even put my briefcase up top. I hurt so bad. And I had to ask somebody to put my briefcase up top if they could. They kind of looked at me. I said, this guy is doing his workouts with us. He just brutalized us the other day. And man, we're really hurting. And once again, on the flight on the way home, we're laughing and crying about this experience we'd had with you. You did it 2 days in a row, and then we were leaving. So we both vowed we would never stop working out because it hurt too bad to start up again.
By the way, good business principle. You train them, you make them sore, and then you do the massage therapy. It's good for business. It doubled business.
Yeah, no
I was hurting at the time. I was hurting.
Oh, man. So anyway, at one point, I decided I was going to work out every day. And which is difficult because I was on lots of airplanes and whatever. Some years I was on 200 flights in a year and still doing business back home and living out in the Okanagan Valley. By choice. So anyway, I decided I was going to work out every day. And I decided that I had to do at least 30 minutes of cardio for it to count. Mm-hmm. And so, but then I was doing the rest of the time in the gym, and maybe that was 3 times a week, but I was averaging more than an hour a day. I did that for 2 years and 16 days. And I found out it's a lot easier to work out every day than it is to work out 3 times a week. Mm-hmm. It is, because it becomes a part of your life. It becomes, a ritual. And I didn't have to think about doing it. I just did it.
Including when you were sleepwalking and hit cars while you were sleepwalking.
Stop telling stories about me now. So at one time, I was visiting with my daughter in Victoria. She was going to university there. Tamara and I had a long talk. We were going to go for a walk and get this cardio in, but it didn't happen. Then my flight was canceled. I had to wait for another flight. I get into San Diego like 1:30 or 2 in the morning. I go to the condo, throw some laundry in the laundry, and I go down to Vaughn's grocery store to get some groceries and turn on the TV. And I'm really bummed out because I've missed my day. I've broken the chain. And I was really upset about it. So I thought, nope, I'm going to go. I'm going to make up for yesterday, and I'm going to make up for today. So I go and I'm walking around that big circle at the top of La Mirage, and the security guy pulls up in his cart. He says, do you mind if I ask what you're doing? I said, I'm exercising. He said, at 3 o'clock in the morning? I said, yeah. Okay, then. He drives off. Well, I was so exhausted and so tired. I'm going around the big circle. And then I banged into this pickup truck. I thought the guy had hit me, but I had fallen asleep walking.
Dedication.
I wasn't sleepwalking. I fell asleep walking.
Dedication.
And I hit the big mirror on this truck with my shoulder, and I banged my knee into the door, and I'm like, oh, and then I realized I was out there by myself. I fell asleep walking. And so I'm talking to Brenda the next morning. She says, did you get your workout in yesterday? And I said, yeah, I did it this morning. She says, that doesn't count. I said, honey, yeah, I mean, I got it in. I worked it again today. She said, it doesn't count. So I've asked lots of audiences, I want to tell that story. Did it count? Absolutely, they all say, right?
As your trainer and still your coach, Wayne, absolutely, it did count. I'm counting that as a workout. 2 years and 16 days, folks, of continuous exercise for 30 minutes at a clip. That includes sometimes global trips, coast-to-coast trips, time zones, without fail, sometimes even getting up at 3 in the morning so we could work out prior to getting on the plane to doing that. So, Wayne, that epitomizes your life. That epitomizes you and the headstrong, the mindset of when you put your mind to something, you find a way to get it done.
Well, let me tell you the truth about that, Todd. I've got ADD big time. And I've always had it. Mm-hmm. I went on medication when I was 62. And so I have a little egg timer. When I'm working on a project, I will set up a 90-minute time block to work on a project. Mm-hmm. I set this for every 9 minutes just to bring my head back where I'm supposed to be.
You still have that thing, huh?
I should set it for 90 seconds because my head drifts so quickly, right? So and I'm a creative analytical. So I wake up in the morning and I've got all these ideas, and then I think you need to analyze every bloody one of them. Yeah. And it's a disease. Mm. That's what led to my first stroke. Because I was going to bed at midnight. Brenda's a night owl. I wake up at 4 o'clock with no alarm, and I'd be up and I'd be on the move, and my head is moving and grooving, and I'm into all this stuff. And I didn't realize what my gap factor was until I had a stroke. Now, I would never suggest for a second that the stroke was caused by you motivating me to walk out to exercise every day. That's not it. I'm so glad I had done that because I recovered much better from the stroke than I would have ordinarily.
Absolutely.
Right? I was in that kind of shape. But I had a stroke. And they couldn't figure out what it was from. They give me 6 meds and say, take these medications. I said, come on, you guys, you got to give me some answers. They said, we don't know. You know, you're healthy and your blood pressure's under control, and like there's no reason for you to have this stroke.
Mm-hmm.
And I was sleeping 12 hours a day, completely exhausted, like totally exhausted. Couldn't think. I mean, I was, and I was stumbling through a bookstore one day, and I see this book and it says Speed Trap. Speed Trap. Okay. A book for people who live their lives at a frenzied pace. And I'm thinking externally. I'm thinking, okay, that's got my name written all over it. So I buy this book. It wasn't about living your life externally. It's about living it too fast in your head.
That's right.
It's about having thought attacks. That's an unending stream of thought. You're going here, you're going there. You think you're just thinking, but you're playing ping pong in your head. Right? And there was 37 case studies, if I recall, in this book. And I saw myself in like a dozen of them. Mm-hmm. It's about people that get going too fast in their heads. What's the downside effect? What they did about it? What was the upside result?
That's right.
And I was sold.
Yeah.
And then I saw a second book called Slowing Down to the Speed of Life, both written by Joseph Bailey, Bailey. And so here I am sleeping 12 hours a day after the stroke, and I'm laying there on Chesterfield and I'm reading Joe's books. I sent him an email. I said, Joe, I think you just saved my life. This stuff is amazing. Because I've always had thought attacks. Always. And the way you stop one is by recognizing you're having one, which is really difficult to do. You think you're just thinking. So anyway, at one point after I could fly again, because they said no airplanes, you got to stay within 15 minutes of the hospital at all times. You may not do any speaking. No exercise. You can't even go for a walk in the mall. No sex. You're cut off. I'm like, my life is over, right? And I was 53. And so after a while, I started sleeping less, and I started gaining a little more energy and whatever. And eventually, I'm back up to speed. And it was about 10 weeks before I could go back to the office again. But anyway, I started going back. I was stumbling everywhere I went. I went to a shopping store with Brenda one day, and I banged into 4 people's shopping carts, and they think you're a disgusting drunk. And so it was quite a procedure. I couldn't drive. They would not let me drive. They took away my insurance. They reported it to the DMV. And so it was a big change. Sure. I had to cancel a bunch of speaking engagements and things that I was doing and whatever. I had to downsize some staff pretty quickly. I had some very expensive people on my team. And boy, I had to adjust fast. And so anyway, I finally get back to work again and starting to feel better. And they got my driver's license back. And the doctor didn't check off yes to motorcycle license. And so I walked right back into his office, past the reception. And I said, you made a mistake. And he says, no, I didn't. I said, yes, you did. You checked off no to motorcycle. He said, you can't ride a motorcycle. I said, I sure can. He says, you're dizzy. And I said, I was dizzy at the time of the stroke, big dizzy. I'm not dizzy now. And he says, I don't think you should be riding on 2 wheels. I said, take your saw. You got a saw in here? Cut off my right arm right here. That's my best arm. Cut it off right there. He says, Wayne. I said, I'm serious. I need my motorcycle license back. So he reluctantly checked it off. The next time I went back, I had to go back again for a new medical every 3 months. Next time he hesitates, and I said, don't even think about it. So he checked it off the right way. So what I learned is that I was suffering from thought attacks. I was thinking all the time. Right. All the time. Here, there, and everywhere. And a lot of us do, especially entrepreneurial people, right? We're thinking all the time. Well, what I discovered is that thought attacks are hurting you. So I've said to people, you go to church on Sunday and the minister's all excited because you're taking all kinds of notes about a sermon. You're not doing that at all. You're making notes about your business. And so a lot of people in business are like that. And so what happened was I learned that I was suffering from long-term sleep deprivation. Yeah. I had a second stroke 5 months after the first one. I was on an airplane to Minneapolis. I had a second stroke. And when you're in the stroke clinic and people are drooling out of the corner of their mouths, they can't walk, they can't talk, can't communicate, you learn that little strokes are a huge predictor of massive strokes. So I decided it's 3 strokes and you're out. So I better figure out, what am I going to do about this? So I read these books. When I could fly again, I emailed Joe and I said, I'm conducting a workshop in the St. Paul Hotel from the 5th to 7th of April. Any chance you might be in town? I'd love to meet you. He emails me back. He says, Wayne, this is meant to be. I too am conducting a workshop in the St. Paul Hotel from the 5th to the 7th of April. Hair stood up in the back of my neck. Joe and I spent 3.5 delightful hours together. And he helped me understand that I was deep into thought attacks all the time.
Right.
So he introduced me to somebody that's a clinical psychologist. Brendan and I went and spent 4 days with this guy. He helped me understand that I was suffering from long-term sleep deprivation. And he also said, Wayne, another thing you said was you go to bed at night with an issue on your mind, knowing you're going to wake up in the morning with the answer, and you do, but you also end up with your pillow soaked and sometimes your sheets. And how much REST do you think you got those nights? 0. So I went for 20 years on 4 hours sleep a night, but it wasn't 4 hours, it was maybe 2. And I was taking little sessions where I'd go into the video studio in the easy chair and I'd drop my eyes. In 2 minutes, I'd unplug from that power source and plug into a new one. I was back, fully back.
Right.
I was doing that 3 or 4 times a day just so I could make it through the day. So I haven't had any strokes since then.
Good. Let's keep
Don't
it that
intend
way.
to. Yeah, no kidding.
Let's keep
anyway,
it that
Todd,
way.
listen, you're gonna have to break this. You're gonna have to break this into 3 podcasts.
Well,
One story each.
Here's what I'll do. I'll have one final question for you because I've been on your tail for years that you need to write a book. So we need to get all these stories into a book because the world deserves more Wayne Cotton. And what I would encourage anyone who's listening in today is to check out all of Wayne, what he's doing, at least at his website. It's called nobrowndays.com, nobrowndays.com. And even though he serves more financial advisors and finances his world, he does have a lot of other high performers, entrepreneurs, fitness pros, coaches, because I'm always out there evangelizing for you, Wayne.
Yep.
So guys, check out nobrowndays.com. It'll go into his color-coded calendar system and everything else. But Wayne, in the 2 minutes that we have left, I want you just to touch upon, as brief as you can, because this is one of the most powerful things that you've ever said. Can you just share what the 7 F's stand for and describe it real quick?
I have a lot of what I call power phrases. You work on something for a while and you figure something out and you work on it. That's when I worked on for 3 months before I finalized it. Fear, frustration, and failure are all overcome by faith, focus, forward motion, and follow through. Fear, frustration, and failure are all overcome by faith, focus, forward motion, and follow through. I wrote a document about that. You can put it in the notes.
Yeah.
I wrote a document about that and just explaining it more deeply. But, in my life, I've created a lot of sayings and phrases and whatever. It's just like my one I used earlier saying, stay in your zone, not the ozone. Right? And so there's a lot of these, sayings that I've either got a seed of an idea from somewhere and I expanded on it, or it was something I created myself or whatever. But these are some things that you live by.
Yeah.
And, when you came and spoke at one of my pathway retreats, I did a 3-day retreat for seasoned successful financial advisors, followed by a year-long mastermind group. And you spoke, and I remember thanking you for speaking. I gave you a butterfly. And I remember thanking you and saying that sometimes what happens is the mentor becomes the mentee. And so, Todd, you've become a powerful force in my life. And sometimes when I feel disorganized or I feel like I'm off, well, first of all, I have this sitting on the top of my desk right in front of me.
Get your mind right.
Right? I have this sitting up there as well.
Yes.
Right? And when I get off track a little bit, you know what I do? I use you as my alter ego. Now, those of you that know Beyonce, she has an alter ego.
We all have alter egos. We all have alter egos. Yeah.
Well, check this out.
Uh-oh. He's now undressing. Wayne Cotton is now undressing on our podcast. This is a first. We have our star of the show. Yes. Live a life worth telling a story about. Look at that. What's your story? And Wayne, there's no one that epitomizes that statement more than you. Man.
Lots of our stories where that come from. We'll have to do another podcast someday.
Well, unbelievable. Folks, you just heard from my man, my mentor, my friend, a man who has impacted me more besides my father. I can't imagine anyone else. Coach Wolf, you and my dad, 3 men that have impacted me so much. Wayne, thank you. Thank you for who you are, all you do to create so much impact in so many people's lives. I know your tree, your lineage goes broad and wide. And I am one proud pupil and friend of yours who, wherever I go, you're always with me. You talk about alter egos. I think about the spirit and the soul that you've always, since day one, since the day I met you and Brenda, both of you, what you represent in my life and who we impact now and how we do that. Live a life worth telling a story about what's your story. Wayne Cotton, thank you for being the man and the human being that you are.
And Todd, likewise with you. You're one of my closest friends in the whole world. And you mean so much to me too. It's one of these amazing relationships that just happened out of the blue. Thank you, pal. Fist bump.
Fist bump. Nothing happens
See,
by
there's
coincidence.
There's my little butterfly.
Oh, there's the butterfly. There you have it. The butterfly. Nothing happens by coincidence. And the butterfly story and Wayne Cotton, always synonymous with life. Wayne, thank you for sharing with my folks today. Guys, don't forget, go to nobrowndays.com. Check out all that Wayne's doing. Wayne, is there anywhere else that people could find out more about you?
It'll be in my first book coming up.
Yes. Yes.
I'm speaking at the $1 Million Roundtable again in 2020, and so I'm committed to getting a book done, and I've got 4 of them on my list. So I'll be around. Keep watching, keep checking it out. No Brown Days, by the way. The reason that website is called that is because when you get your days vivid, clear, and bright, you can accomplish so much more. If you mix all the colors together, you get brown. That's not the color you're looking for. And so that's why that website is called nobrowndays.com. And by the way, when you're there, check off occupation, because we have our big group of followers who are all in the financial world, in the financial advice world, but there's a couple of other categories there. So if you're in another category, just check it off so that, or something on their other, so that we can keep our database focused on the right way we want to do it.
Guys, do me a favor as we check out of here today. If you're a new fan of Wayne Cotton, can you please go on to the podcast and make sure that you give this podcast a great rating and review it. Share and brag all about the wonderful wisdom and nuggets that you just got from Wayne. There's like 25 of them. I was only going to give you like 10, but he delivered like at least 25 of them. It could technically be 3 podcasts, 3 episodes, but please write a review. And then if you'd be as inclined to share this on your social media or via an email, if you found any value, share it with a friend who could lend any of that wisdom. And Wayne come off hot sharing it right from the start. So please do that for us. And Wayne, thank you for all that you do. I can't wait to connect with you. I'll keep sharing all about you because I'm always out there bragging about you wherever I am as well.
Me too. Love you, pal.
Love you too, brother. Take care.
See you later. Bye now.
My goodness, Wayne Cotton brought the heat again. If I had a camera on you right now, you're probably looking as mesmerized as I do. As a matter of fact, I've got a towel over my head. I'm sweating just listening to all this wisdom. I mean, what is that episode worth? I mean, as a matter of fact, out of the entire TD Impact show, I've never broken an episode into 2 different episodes. We had 2 parts, part 1 and part 2. So serious wisdom. What was your favorite part? Part 1, part 2. Which was your favorite part of all the stories? Are you talking about a magical, masterful storyteller? Wayne Cotton has so much life wisdom and shared some amazing stories in part 1 and part 2 of that. I would love to hear your feedback. And I couldn't wait to share Wayne with you because for the last 22 plus years, he has been such a huge part of my life, with my family, with my business, with everything that I do. And I could go on for hours and hours with Wayne, and maybe we'll have him back in the future. But I hope that you got some great value out of episodes 1 or part 1 and part 2 of this Wayne Cotton show. So don't forget, if you enjoy this, please don't forget to share it It really helps get that out there. Share who Wayne Cotton is. And don't forget, you have NoBrownDays.com, NoBrownDays.com. Go sign up for Wayne's system, which will help you with your mellow yellow and your blue sky time and your green machine and your red tape, all of the things that you can color code your calendar. But I want to know which was your favorite part. Go get NoBrownDays.com and then share this on your social media. Share it on an email. Share it with your friends and tell them what a great guy Wayne Cotton is and how much you're a fan of the Todd Durkin Impact Show. And if you have not, but for some reason, I know you're busy, but if for some reason you have not yet given us a 5-star rating, can you please just take a moment, take a time out, hop over, and please give us a 5-star rating and write a glowing review for just some of the many guests that we've had on so that we could provide you value, so we could get your mind right, we could get your body right, and we could get your soul right. My friends, thank you. Have an incredible day. Go out there and make the world a better place. And until next time, remember, train hard, eat right, live inspired, and create impact.